So, what is blended learning? It's a strategic combination of online and in-person learning which provides students with some control over the time, place, path and or pace of their own learning. So the key thing here is that it is strategic and the focus is on the student and the ownership of their learning. The key ideas around blended learning is that it is collaborative. It shifts from student to teacher interaction to student interaction. And it is not the same thing as technology integration. So there is some confusion around technology integration being the same thing as blended learning. So let's have a look at that now. So what does it actually look like? Is it having students answer questions using an online clicker poll? No, but this is a nice use of tech. Is it students using their devices to research material for an assignment they're working on? No, but again, this is still a very nice use of tech. So how can you use those examples to become blended learning? We can actually take those two tasks and turn them into blended learning. The first one, using clicker polls. You can take the results of that online clicker poll and post them into online discussions with some thought-provoking questions. Or you can ask students to defend their thinking in that same forum. So when students are defending their thinking in an online forum with their peers, it will deepen their learning process and also encourage collaboration with their peers. If you're using devices to do research online, students doing the research can post sections of their own research in an online forum and get feedback from their peers. And number two, the students can access and follow pre-recorded instructions from their teacher about their research, while the teacher can use that time to work with another group for in-depth instruction. Blended learning is about instructional design. It is actually not about the technology. Technology is used to restructure the classroom in order to increase student involvement, student engagement, and student input. And blended learning is about deliberate and careful structural planning. So the biggest obstacle to teaching online isn't necessarily the technology, but rather how to integrate it. And with the plethora of online tools available, together with the need for ongoing targeted professional development and training, it's possible that this is the primary obstacle to being able to use technology productively in the classroom. So a conceptual tool I was introduced to during my teacher training days is the SAMR model, which I'd like to share with you here. The SAMR model lays out 4 tiers of online learning presented roughly in order of sophistication and transformative power. So we have substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. When switching to an online format, teachers often focus on the first 2 levels, which involve placing traditional materials with digital ones. So this is like converting lessons and worksheets into PDFs and posting them online, or making video recordings and then posting them for asynchronous or offline learning. So those are important steps, especially when first teaching online, but in classrooms where tech integration has moved to the mastery level, the last 2 levels of the SAMR model, modification and redefinition, should also be in the mix. Students in classes with this kind of mastery embedded find more interesting and immersive uses for technology, and in turn become quite creative. They end up becoming creators and publishers of their own work across multiple forms of media, or perhaps they're inviting outside professionals to provide feedback on their work products, or even participating in digital forums with other peers on the other side of the world. It's quite tempting to think of SAMR as a mountain that needs to be summited, but good technology integration isn't about living at the top of the SAMR model. It's about being aware of the range of options and choosing the right strategy or strategies for the lesson at hand. So you can and you should move between any of the layers. Finally, consider how technology can be used not just as a way to deliver content, but also strengthen relationships with your students. Think about the tools that you use to remain connected with your students during lockdown, perhaps. Remember again that this is more like a toolbox than a mountain to summit. The goal isn't to use the most sophisticated tool, but to actually find the right one for the job. So more importantly, however, it's a way to reflect on your technology integration by thinking about a few key questions. So the first of these questions is, how can I improve my lessons by using technology? The second, how can I engage and empower my students through technology? And the third would be, how can online learning more closely resemble authentic real-world learning? We go from the SAMR model to look at the 3 M's of blended learning. The first of these is medium. And medium means both your digital and non-digital tools, such as textbooks and workbooks and so on. The second is modality. This can be in class or online. This is the physical learning environment for your students. And lastly, we have method. Method is what you do as a teacher to combine the medium with the modality in order to stimulate student learning. Arguably, of the 3 M's, method is the most important. So why do we do blended learning? Apart from the experience you would have had during the recent lockdown, blended learning has some serious arguments for it to become the norm and not the outlier in our school life today. Firstly, if executed well, blended learning offers improved student learning where you, as a teacher, have the opportunity to try strategies not practical or possible in traditional classroom settings. And this can lead to improved student engagement and learning outcomes. Students and teachers will have increased opportunities to access and also greater flexibility in time, mode, and delivery. And finally, there's the increase in cost efficiency in both time and money for both the teacher and the learner. So in a nutshell, I'll bring you the 7 pedagogic P's of blended learning to keep in mind. The first, participation, is about online discussions, for example, can help equalise the amount of student participation. Students are able to contribute by adding their voice to an online discussion in real time, instead of perhaps sitting in a classroom where they're all fighting to put up their hands and get their opinions heard. Pacing. Students can move at their own pace, advancing when they have reached certain benchmarks, and these benchmarks can be co-constructed between teacher and student. So this brings us to personalisation. In a standard classroom situation, it can be difficult to personalise a student's learning according to their interests, skills, and goals, and we know this. However, online learning components can help teachers provide students with more ownership and direction over their own learning. The fourth P is place. Blended learning allows for the student to learn wherever and whenever is most beneficial to them, so that that can be at school, before, during, or after class, or they can learn at home when they get back from sports practice, rehearsals, or even a part-time job. So if you know you have students in this position, you can see how blended learning could be a suitable option for them. The fifth P, personal interaction, helps to monitor student behaviour and manage the flow of classroom activities. However, in a blended classroom environment, students are engaged in learning online, which means that you can spend more time conferencing and helping those individual students that perhaps need more assistance with their learning. Number 6 is preparation. Blended learning allows students to access course material at any time. As a teacher, you're able to provide the course material at a pace to suit students who can review the material prior to coming to class. A well-known method of this is with flipped classrooms, where the student preloads with content prior to attending the next class. So this is technically their homework. And then in class, the focus can be on tasks based on the reviewed topic. Lastly, we have practice with feedback, which, as we know, is a key part of the learning process. While it can be difficult to provide a student with immediate and relevant feedback, this can be achieved with elements of online learning through responsive assessments and interactive activities. Blended learning provides students with the opportunities to develop knowledge and skills that will be essential to their future successes. As you know, jobs that existed as little as 10 years ago now no longer exist, so it's hard to know what skills students will need in even 5 years' time. However, it's argued that all students should at least have the 4 C's of 21st century learning. And by this, we're talking about communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity being embedded by the time that they leave school. Achieving this will be dependent on how the teacher approaches their teaching and also how the student approaches their learning. So this leads me to providing you with a secret sauce for blended learning. Firstly, we look at student ownership and agency. The evidence is that when a student feels they have ownership over their own learning, they become engaged. There is a switch away from being time-based towards subject mastery. So instead of looking at the clock to make sure that content is delivered within a time frame, we now consider what it is the student needs to know and ensure that they're able to master those skills and knowledge before moving on to the next topic. And as with all students, we should be using student data to help drive the instructional decision-making around our lesson design. We also need to take risks. And with those risks, we can expect to fail at times. And when we fail, we can learn to recover. And once we recover, we need to make improvements from the failure in order to shore up our future lessons. We also need to put the focus onto the students' soft skills, those 4 C's of the 21st century learning. And finally, the key for integration of online and in-person instruction is ensuring online learning activities are valued as a core essential part of the blend, not just frivolous, time-filling busy work. So now I suppose you're wondering, where do I begin? So you're here because of Classroom 2020, and I suggest this is a really good place to start for you. Here, all of the content, activities, and assessments are already online. This will help you develop your blended learning skills without you having to reinvent the wheel and go looking for all those resources and everything else that you need, you'll probably need for your unit of work. And the other thing I suggest is that you take some baby steps. Don't try and do everything at once. Just choose the elements that work for you initially and go with it. So if you've used Google Classroom, Office 365 or Schoology or Moodle or Hapara or any similar kind of learning management platform, Classroom NZ 2020 has a similar kind of interface and will feel familiar to you. I strongly suggest you familiarise yourself with the content within your subject area on Classroom NZ 2020 before you decide which components you will use. Thirdly, you'll find lessons, activities and assessments, and you'll be able to select the most relevant of these for your ākonga. So just in closing, I have finally a couple of other things that I wanted to bring to you, to your attention. If you're on Facebook at the moment, we have the great NZ NCEA Hackathon 2020, and this is being led by Claire Amos, who's the principal of Albany Senior High. So in this forum, we've got a group of teachers across a range of subjects looking at how they're able to take a single task for a student and have that task, or perhaps even a series of tasks, reach across a number of disciplines and assessments. And it's basically the idea of working smarter and not harder with NCEA. The other place that I can suggest that you go to is the big 3. So Microsoft, Apple and Google all have an education arm. So each of these areas, each of these companies provide you with a lot of really, really good, valuable information around blended learning, tips and tricks for your classroom, things that you can do with the software available to you. So I strongly recommend that you go to each of these areas and have a look at what they can offer you. One of the websites that I really love and I spend a lot of time on is edutopia.org. They have regular, really good forums, information, articles, stories, everything on there. I totally recommend that you go there and have a look at that. And then we have the hashtag of edchat.nz. This is one that is used on all of the social media platforms. So if you're particularly interested in something around education discussion within New Zealand, look for that hashtag on any of the social media platforms and I'm sure you'll find something of interest to you. So thank you very much for your time. I will now pass over to Chris and Chris will take you through Classroom NZ 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. Oh, can you see that? Okay, great, thanks. All right. Okay. Kia ora tātou, my name is Chris Quirke. My aim today is to give you a brief overview of Classroom NZ 2020 platform and some of the core functionality that you will look to use when you come onto the platform. One key point I want to make right at the beginning is you will need to use a browser other than Internet Explorer to access the platform. So I'm currently using Google Chrome. So once your school is enrolled in Classroom 2020, you will receive a set of documents about a getting started guide and some other documents, and they will provide a URL, and that URL will set you up with this page. It will take you to this page. So this is the login page. Teachers will log in using their ESL account, and students will log in using their student account. So the credentials that the students will use will be from the school's Google G Suite for Education or Office 365 Microsoft Azure AD tenancy. So in the registration form, we ask which of those two platforms you use within your school, and then the students will use their credentials from that platform after they click that student account. And Ministry of Education people just use that company account, so you probably won't use that. After you log in, you come to this page, which is the home page. And down here in this box here, you will see all the courses that you are enrolled for. So here, for example, I'm enrolled in all the School A courses. So I just click on this course to access its detail. And I make a quick point here about the course name. So the end of the course name just has a reference to the school. So when you fill in your registration form, you'll be asked to provide a short school name, and that will appear at the end of the course, and it will just allow your students and teachers to know that they're in the right course. Clicking on this will just take you back to the original home page. You might also be enrolled in a lot of courses, as I am here. So you can pin courses to the top of your little course list, and they will appear up the top so you can keep track of them easier. So I've pinned all these courses here, and so it just allows me an easy way of keeping track of them. So go back into the course. So this course page here will be visible to all teachers and learners who are enrolled in this particular course. So there's a key point to make here, which is that we will have a separate instance of each Te Kura course for each school. So for example, this is the Mathematics NCEA Level 1 course for School A, and each school will have their own instance of this course. And the teachers and students from School A will be enrolled into this course, and the teachers and learners from other schools will be enrolled in their own instance of this course. And the enrollment data will be defined, and enrollments will be defined by the data you put into your registration form. Along the top is this key toolbar, and this has the key tools associated with the course. So I'll just start by clicking into content. So this is the key content that is being provided by Te Kura. And I'll just step through these items. So table of contents, just as a table of contents. Course information, so this has a suggested course plan that you can download as a PDF document. This is the content associated with this course, so these are all the lessons and modules. Then we've got achievement standards, and we've got NZQA past papers. So you will see a similar set of contents for each course. One of the key things we've been asked for by teachers is how do I customize the course content so that I can make sure my learners see the courses that are relevant for them. And that can be easily done using this little I button up the top. So you can make elements of the materials visible or invisible by simply switching the eye on and off, and it says hidden successfully. So that allows you to customize the course content about what's visible and what's not to students. So when it's hidden, any learner that enrolls that is in this course, enrolled in this course, won't be able to see this particular course item. I'll go back to the course home. One of the things Jacqueline made reference to was this idea around kind of discussions. So on this home page, you can create a set of activity feeds like posts. This is kind of related to social media, so it's probably very familiar to your students. So you can create a set of posts here just to introduce the subject and to raise any kind of particular things you want all your learners and teachers in this course to see. You can also raise references to assignments. And you can select an existing assignment if that's valuable. One of the things that you'll probably want to do as soon as you get into a course is see who else is enrolled in this course. And you do that by clicking on Course Admin in that toolbar. That will take you to this page. And then you click on Class List. And that will show you the other people who are enrolled, so teachers and learners. It's probably important to point out at the moment that we also have two types of teachers. So we have a teacher that is explicitly enrolled in the course, and you will see them in the class list. So these teachers have been explicitly enrolled into the Mathematics NCEA Level 1 course. But we also have a concept of an oversight teacher. And a lot of principals and heads of faculty and deputy principals are interested in being enrolled in every single course. So you can set aside those teachers to be oversight teachers, and that's in the registration form, and they will have access to every single course for that particular school. And they won't appear in the class list. So oversight teachers won't appear in the class list, but the regular teachers will appear. And we've found that it's quite useful for schools starting off with the platform to nominate a couple of oversight teachers. And that allows them then to go into the platform and see what content is available for them. And then they can decide about how to best apply it for their own school. I'll go back to the course home. And I'll click on this class tool. So this class tools is kind of the key tools associated with the course. I'll click on these intelligent agents. I'll go through this very quickly. So intelligent agents is kind of an automated action that you can set up to monitor behavior on the platform. And in particular, you can set it up to track user access to the platform. So you can track to see how long it is since a student has logged into this course. And you can then get it to send you an alert. So for example, if a student hasn't logged on for 20 days, you might want to get an alert about that, just so it tells you that they haven't done that. I'll go back to content. And I will go to this teacher marked assignment. So for all the courses that Takura have provided, they have provided also a number of kind of pre-written assessments. So not just lessons, but also pre-written assessments. And this one here, for example, I'll just click on this download worksheet. So your students could come into this bit of the course and they could download this assignment and have a look at it and answer the questions. There's also an upload to Dropbox button. Now, this isn't the Dropbox that is commonly known or understood and available on the internet. This is actually an internal file share for this particular platform. So when a student would click upload to Dropbox, they could upload a file that they've created onto this platform. And then you, as a teacher, could then go in and mark that assignment on the platform. So you would see the document and you'd be able to mark it without having to use external email or whatever. But also there is the option that the student could download the worksheet to the workstation and then just email it to you so you can mark it outside of the platform. If you go to class tools and you go to assignments, this is where you will track progress on the assignments and submissions and various things for all your students on the platform. So as a teacher, I can see this and I can track who has submitted an assignment and whether I've evaluated or not. So it's got a workflow in the background. There's also one other thing I should really have shown you about the content. Obviously, the content material provides lessons as well. So there's content within the lessons. So Takura have provided lesson material, so you can run through those. Your students can run through those and do the various different little assignments. One thing that Jacqueline made mention of was the idea of discussions and bringing together student discussions and students discussing their work. So there is a function within the platform that allows you to raise discussion points. So for example, just looking at this is one that has already been set up by Takura. So I'll just click on that. So it presents a question and then you can have a discussion of it. So your students can raise different little points or questions or whatever about that. So I've raised this discussion point, what shape are the droplets? And then you can have replies and views and different things. So it's a standard kind of social media type discussion board associated with work, which is quite useful. Back at the course home, you'll see also on this left-hand side a calendar. So you can set up calendar events to drive activities as well and to remind your students of when assignments are due. So just click on course admin and that is another tool just here, calendar. So I can set up events here. Right, so I'll go back to the course home. And then I'll back to the home page. And then you log out. So that was a very quick run through of some of the core functionality associated with the platform. If you have more detailed questions on using Classroom NZ 2020, a Getting Started guides for teachers and frequently asked questions for teachers are available on the TKO website. If these don't answer your question, please contact your school administrator, your regional office, or the Education Service Desk. So thank you. Oh, I've got to shut this down. I'm just looking to shut this down. Sorry, just give me a second. You might want to just keep talking while I try and sort this out. Here we go.
Yeah, get that then. Okay, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate that. We've had a few.
Oh, it seems Jack is having some technical issues. So there seems to have been some questions along the way. We got a question from Nathan. Hopefully, Nathan, your question's been answered by both Maree and Alastair. It says, does each teacher have a course or is there one course per school? Example, let's say NCA level 1. Hi, you're back, Jacky. We were just going through the questions. You see you dropped out with some technical issues. No worries.
Oh, sorry about that.
We'll pass it on. I might switch Nathan, Nikki, and Ross to unmute so you guys can talk or ask questions or introduce yourselves perhaps. Go for it. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, it's Nathan Walsh calling. I'm from Hagley College in Christchurch. Can you hear me all right?
Hi,
Yeah.
Nathan.
Very well.
Great. Yeah. No, thanks very much for the presentation. That looks really interesting. Yeah, just haven't quite got my head around the how the courses are set out. I'm not sure whether it's one course for every student. So I've got 500 students that do level 1 NCEA maths. Is all students, are they in that one maths course, or is there one course for 30 students like we have in a traditional, if you like, class environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are two approaches we've seen. So initially, all your students are enrolled in one course, so you would have 500 students. But there's a way in which you can set them up into different classes, and it's called sections. And basically this is what Takura does as well. So they set up separate sections for each class. And then when your students log in, they will only see other people in their class, and their teacher will only see the people in that section. So that's a way of separating it up into classes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Is that what you'd recommend?
Yes, that's what we recommend, and that's following what Takura does as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And Chris, one thing I mentioned in the chat is that if you want the detailed instructions for setting up those sections, they're in the final section of the Getting Started guide on the website.
Okay, good. Thanks. I've got a couple of other questions too. Is there anyone else on this that I don't want to take up all your time?
I think you're good, Nathan.
Okay, good. I was really intrigued at the start. You talked a lot about the SAMR model of technology integration, which sounded really good. What's a good example of how we're reaching the top levels of SAMR in this program?
In terms of using the SAMR model in a blended learning environment, it depends entirely on your teacher's experience with blending. And as Jacky, I think you mentioned already, it's about using not just one level of the SAMR model, but trying to use a range of it. And I'm not sure if I'm getting your question answered here, so let me know if I'm moving in the right direction. I would say try different methods, and the idea, of course, is not integration. It is about making the learning digital, not digitizing learning. And I think that was one of the big distinctions that we've made, is that you can have a good lesson in terms of a traditional classroom, but to be able to place that same lesson into an online environment, in a digital environment, is a lot more difficult, because you'd have to think around the pedagogy of that. And the way in which to do that would be to think of ways that could be easily done using an online way. And then the things that really matter, you would be doing face-to-face, the social emotional learning, the peer-to-peer collaboration between students, etc., and the discussion and generating that online sharing and networking. That's so important. So that for me requires, and I think for all of us, requires a lot more thinking about how we approach this. It needs to be intentional. It needs to be deliberate.
Okay, great.
Jump in, Jacky, if you need to.
Oh yeah, you go, Jacky.
No, I'll back up everything Misha said. So it's not actually just going from the bottom level straight up or anything like that. It's a combination, and it's got to fit what you're trying to do in your lesson or what you're trying to do in your unit with your students.
Yep. So is the oh, sorry, you go, Alastair.
Sorry, yeah. Thanks, Nathan. Good question. I think we can all see the potential in this as a resource, sure, to supplement our already planned programs, and as a response to COVID and whatever might happen there. But actually, if you look at the potential of this tool and the rich learning lessons and modules that are there, this is also a really good chance for teachers to explore more and build their confidence in this blended learning approach. Jacky was talking about the 7 Ps of blended learning. This just fits so beautifully, you know, and if I was in a school, I'd be lapping it up. Even from the point of view of it helps us tailor our lessons and our learning for our pupils really, really well, without adding to the workload, because the work is already there, the rich learning is already there. That's what I'd add. Thanks, Nathan.
Okay, I'm thinking maybe I need to have a better look at it myself. I have completed that Excel file and submitted it to the support desk, but I don't think I've got access yet, and I haven't. I need to. The instructions I've been given is I need to have a look at it first before we get all our students signed up to it, and so it's really only me and a dummy student, if you like, in the Excel file. So is there any chance I can get access sooner rather than later?
Actually, you could log in right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what do I go to? I've got my Google Chrome browser open.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. I'll just send you the link.
Yeah.
Ross and Nikki, while Nathan's experimenting, have you two signed up? Having a cup of tea?
Sorry, no. Right, yes. No, I'm actually an education advisor, and we're promoting this to schools in our area down Otago, and we've got 4 at the moment who are quite keen to pick it up. So I'm very interested in actually listening to all of this and being able to promote this with going out to schools. So anyway, thank you very much. It's been really good.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks to Ross for your comment in the chat.
What's the uptake been like so far?
It actually hasn't been too bad. Once people sort of get to grips with it, it's sometimes it's been convincing principals, and then finding that first follower in a school that says, "Oh yes, I can really see how this will work." So yeah, we were surprised that some schools didn't pick it up, but other schools are very, very keen.
We're still in the early stages. We're still actually working towards full release. So we're just in the early stages of starting to get some early schools on board as part of that phased process.
Yeah, I think some principals may not have actually realised what it is. So we've had some who've sent the email on to someone else at school, and then they are the ones who've registered. And so we're trying to make sure that the principals are engaging as well and understanding what rich opportunity is here.
So what's the long-term goal for, or slightly longer term than February for Classroom on NZ 2020?
So this is part of our COVID response. So it is a short-term tactical response for this year, thanks to the generosity of Quirke in providing their content. So it is very much a response to the unusual situation we found ourselves in this year, and thanks to our partnership with Quirke.
Okay. Because I guess that's one thing that's on my mind. If we're my role is, leader of e-learning at the school I'm at, and if I'm going to spend quite a lot of time getting teachers up to speed with this, and it's going to be not around for too long, I'm not sure whether that's too attractive.
I think for schools who found it really difficult for the distance learning, this is an amazing resource. I think for those schools who, yeah, you're right, Nathan, with anything new, the time and effort that goes into learning a new tool has to be really considered. In light of what Jacky was sharing with us today, this could also be seen as a really good PD exercise. It's not a PD exercise, but if you know what I mean, Nathan, about what I was saying before about the really rich learning activities and how to incorporate those blended learning activities without the teachers having to create the content already. It's a huge reduction, but I get what you say.
It just seems interesting that it's, this is a great Ministry of Education initiative for what we were saying at the start about the importance of blended learning for, the 4 C's and the critical thinking and everything that's required. So why is this such a short-term thing if we're, if we really think it's great? But I don't know, maybe, as you said, a lot of principals haven't really got onto it yet. And I'm a bit concerned that, maybe they don't know about it and maybe they won't get onto it and it won't be a success. And we've missed our chance with something which is, obviously is going to prevent every teacher from reinventing the wheel. So it's probably my 2 cents worth more than anything.
I think it's more at the moment, it's an invitation only, isn't it?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we're just in the early stage, the very early stages of a phased rollout, but very much in response to the unusual situation we're finding ourselves in this year. Yeah, and of course, thank you to the partnership with Takora as well. But you know, I hear the comments, Nathan, and take your points.
If it makes you feel any better, there's actually some schools have heard about it who we haven't invited, who are very, very keen, but you can't invite everybody at the moment, as you've said, Maree. It's a small group at the moment.
Oh, so I'm just wondering if we've got any other further questions or anything else we want to have a chat about around this, or anything else? Okay, well then I'll say thank you very much for your time. It's been good to be able to present this to you. I hope you can come away with some ideas around the blended learning, and also, you know, getting stuck in and using Classroom NZ 2020. So thank you for your time, and we will bid you goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.